Welcome to the Bible in Genesis. I'm Jeff Johnson, and with me today, in a unique way, is my parents, Bryan and Rebecca Johnson. And today we're going to be talking about dominion and what it is to have dominion over all the different parts of creation. So I'm going to just go ahead and real quick start off by reading Genesis 1, verses 28 through 31. We'll get started. And God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. And every beast of the earth, and every fowl of the air, and everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day.
That's right. And we've been talking about the days of creation. And today's subject is something that I think most Christians don't really understand. We really struggle with this concept, and that is the subdue and dominion. Subdue in Hebrew is kabash, which means to tread down or bring into bondage, and dominion is radah, to subjugate. And it's an interesting concept. I think it's a very difficult concept for Christianity today.
Definitely.
And so
there's a lot of influence from the environmentalists.
Absolutely. We have a really lot of bizarre thinking that's coming through, and quite frankly, some dangerous thinking that's coming down the pike. And so we want to talk about dominion today. So we brought our guest in to help us understand a little bit about what is this dominion? What is it to subdue?
Well, first off, Jeff mentioned the environmentalists, and unfortunately, we as Christians, many Christians have allowed so-called scientists to influence our thinking.
Yeah.
We've allowed it in evolution.
Mm-hmm.
Many a Christian think that evolution is scientifically based. However, it's not. It's a religion.
Yes, it is.
And
we talked about that a lot in previous episodes.
Yes, we have.
Right.
We have. Mm-hmm.
And they also, unfortunately, think that what the environmentalists say and what they produce is scientifically based, and it's also not scientifically based.
Yes.
So we Christians, many Christians, allow that influence in our lives because they think that they're receiving truth,
right.
They're receiving facts, whereas it's not. It's the world, it's Satan, once again trying to take us away from the worship of God. The Bible teaches us that a man worshiped the creation more than the Creator.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what environmentalists is trying to do. That's what the global warming is trying to do. It's trying to change our worship from God, the Creator, and putting it on the creation or the earth, and taking it off of the man. Man is the primary creation of God, and not the plants and the animals. And we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go along. But
yes.
It's not a scientifically based thing what they're trying to push you with a lot of things that you hear from environmentalists.
And I think that's going back. I might have mentioned this in another episode, but going to that Romans 1:22, if I'm not mistaken, says, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and we try to bring so much logic and so much, we try to base everything in stuff that we can understand and kind of lose perspective on the fact that God is divine and can do divine things, whatever, and break these laws and whatnot, and we get so focused in on, and it has to be scientifically based and whatnot, that we lose sight of the truth and God. Yeah.
It's interesting because we talked earlier about Christianity trying to bring in evolution through the day-age theory or through the different theories, and The gap theory, exactly. And we're doing the same thing again. We are trying to be accepted by the mainstream religion of evolution in this area of dominion. So what would dominion really maybe be here?
Dominion, before we go to that though, the science behind dominion and the science behind creation is all, true science is accurate. It never contradicts the Bible. You're never going to see something in the Bible written that is anti-scientific, true scientific. And we think that they're saying or giving scientific facts where they're not. So don't misunderstand that we're against science.
Right,
we're not.
Exactly.
True science never contradicts the Bible, and the Bible never contradicts true science.
That's
but
true.
The dominion here, God created man, and I think in previous times they talked about the focus of God's creation being man created in the image of God. And so the primary creation, or the most important creation that God created, was mankind.
Right.
The rest of it, we all have a purpose. Just like God created man for a purpose, He also created the other things for a purpose. And we have to understand that and realize that the plant life and the Bible teaches us that the stars and the planets and the universe was created partially for God's glory. So man can look at it and see the evidences of God and proving that God is true and that God is all powerful.
Right.
So part of the creation, the purpose for that was to show, to magnify, to glorify God. The part of the creation that was put here on earth, the plants, the animals, even our environment, all that was created for man. And God created plants, first of all, for our consumption. And He also created animals for our use. Today we use the horse, we use the ox, we use a lot. Obviously, we have all the animals that we butcher for food, and I'm all for that. Praise the Lord, God is for that too.
We are carnivores.
We are carnivores, and God, after the flood, allowed that to be so, and I'm thankful for that. God created animals, and we mass produce. We herd cattle so that we can either get milk from them or we can have the meat to eat. We do the same thing with sheep, not for their meat as much, although we do eat them as well, but for their wool.
Bees for their honey. And
Bees for their honey. And so the dominion is getting these animals or getting these plants and controlling them to best utilize for our best benefit. We look in history.
Yes, that's true.
And the Chinese used to use dragons.
Exactly.
Used to use dinosaurs to pull the royal carriages. We don't have those dinosaurs anymore. And so they have used something else. So animals will go into extinction. It happens. The truth of the matter is that something goes into extinction every day. We don't realize that. Most of them are insects or things like that.
Things you've never seen in your life.
Things you've probably never seen in your life. But things go into extinction daily. Scientists agree with that. Scientists say that. But the dominion, the Bible teaches us that we are, as humans, the top of the food chain, let's say. We are the priority. And we should do orchards. Why? Because we like eating those plants. I like bananas, I like apples, I like pineapples, and there's some fruits that I don't like. The fruits that I don't care for, I'm not going to put them in my garden.
Right.
I'm not going to have dominion over those plants specifically with more care because they're not my preference. So the dominion that God has given us here is, first of all, we're in control of all these things. And God gives us the permission, God gives us actually the commandment to control these things, whether they be animals or whether they be the fish or whether they be the plants, the birds, mammals, fish, plants. We're supposed to control those. We're supposed to dominate those. We're supposed to use those for our best interest.
And it's interesting that you say that because in ancient times, and this is after the flood, we have great evidence North America was fully populated. North and South America, this idea of discovery is a joke. It was a rediscovery. We had known about it for years.
And it cracks me up because,
future.
yeah, we'll get into it, but there were a lot of people that had constantly gone to North America before Christopher Columbus. I think the Romans were there, and like the Indians obviously lived there. Like it was just all these people. Everybody knew about it, and then we forgot.
Yes. So the rediscovery, we're going to talk about in the future. We'll not spoil that too much, but there's a lot of stuff written about this, and quite frankly, there were times, seasons in which the whole coast from Maine to Florida would be ignited in flame as they prepared the soil in giant burns, giant control burns. They had huge parkways that they had purposely put there. They had there's a reason there were millions of buffalo, because they had propagated it. Exactly. And another, like a little spoiler for the future, which is going to be totally fun as we get further into the Bible and history. The Amazon, not a natural jungle. That was a completely man-made organism. And so what you're saying is exactly what we had done in the past. We had completely manipulated and controlled. We'll see it very shortly
even see
in the
that
Bible.
In the Bible.
Yes.
I can't remember who.
Jacob.
Thank you, Jacob. He specifically bred the cattle for specific purposes.
So it's
and so you can see it throughout.
Yeah. It's what we did. It's just something we've forgotten.
Unfortunately, we've gone to the financial aspect of it. We're crossbreeding all our plants to not for the nutritional value, which is what we should be doing. Yeah. We should be creating better bananas or better apples or better oranges or better strawberries or better whatever, wheat, not for the mass production necessary for the financial investments or the financial comeback of it. Yeah. But for the nutritional value of it. And unfortunately, we've taken it out of context, or we've done it the wrong way. We have controlled the plants and wheats and all this kind of stuff, and now everyone's gluten. A lot of people are gluten intolerant, not because God created the wheat that way, but because we're gluttons. We want money, and so we've done these things to make it easier to produce, and that's good. But we've taken all the nutrition out of it and focused on the financial aspect.
And I feel like we also take a lot of taste out of it in doing so.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Which is sad.
So we, as humanity, we should be cultivating these and bettering them, but we should be doing it not for the financial aspect, but for the nutritional, for the taste, for the enjoyment of humanity instead of the greed. That's what the word I was looking for.
The greed,
the
yes.
greed of humanity.
Well, and the glutton too. Let's be real honest about it. We're a little bit gluttons. We like our food. I think it's very interesting because we have been programmed now to believe that we are destroying this planet. Yes. Mm-hmm. That humans are the problem, and even Christians are believing that we humans are the problem. I actually had a young lady come to me once and say she learned in school that every footstep she takes destroys the earth for 10,000 years or something.
Right.
And yet we look at Hiroshima in Japan, and we drop the atomic bomb, and
supposedly the worst damage we could do, and yet
look
today
at it now.
It's flourishing. Like I said in the beginning of this, we think that they're giving us scientific truth. Mm-hmm. They tell us that we're burning down the forests and that we're destroying our oxygen. The truth of the matter is that scientists very well know, we can't get the exact numbers, but between 60 and 80% of the oxygen of the world is produced by the oceans, not by our trees, not by our plants, not by the Amazon, but by the plants, the algae, and some of the bacteria as well in the oceans that produce our oxygen. So up to 80% of all of the oxygen we consume or that we need here on Earth is not by the trees, but it's from the oxygen, from the oceans. And they'll tell us, don't burn this, don't do that. And the truth of the matter is that scientifically, There's a certain tree, a pine tree,
Yes.
that you have to burn the pod
You have
for
to
the
burn
tree
pine cone.
for the
Yep.
tree to regrow. Without burning, without the fire, it's impossible for that pine to open its seed, and that
die.
tree will go to extinction without burning. And they, of course, they tell us the opposite. They tell us any burning or all burning is horrific and it's killing us. It's destroying the ozone. It's destroying our oxygen. All this kind of stuff. That's not scientifically based. It's again putting the.
They take a little tiny nugget and then build a whole world of
An imaginary world, really.
Yes.
This is a
false
giant
science.
imaginary world that they're building. But, and we've said it in a previous episode, in a previous recording, we talked about what Hitler said. If you say something loud enough and long enough, people will believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And they scream it, and they yell it, and they preach it, and it's on the news every night, and it's in every documentary that you hear. And so we believe it. But as Christians, we don't need to believe it. And that is what we really want to emphasize here.
They don't even stay on board with what they say. A decade or two ago, they took us off of paper to put us on plastic in the grocery
Yes.
stores. Then they banned plastic, and we're back to plastic bags again.
Not paper, yeah.
It's insane. They say one thing one decade, and the next day they're saying the opposite of it.
And it's
Why?
always
Because
changing.
it's not
It's
based.
always,
It's always changing. Exactly. It's not based on science. It's just.
and even in the same time, I feel like different groups will be contradictory itself. You
Right.
know? It's like you can't say it's science and then constantly be saying, no, this isn't true.
Right.
While your other group is saying, no, it is true. There has to be some kind of basis and some stability in it.
Right.
I think to bring this, what we really want you to get from this talk today is to understand that God has put us as the chief of his creation.
Yes.
That everything in creation is here for our benefit. And so we are not here to be controlled by creation, by nature, by the animals. That should never be the controlling factor. It
God
should
has
be to
promised
our
us that
benefit.
He will destroy the world one day. We cannot destroy the earth. Obviously, we're supposed to use it for our benefit, but literally, the Bible teaches us that God will burn it. God will destroy it someday. And so, everything that we do, or everything that they claim that we're going to do to the earth, it's impossible because He will destroy it someday. So it will not be destroyed by humanity. It will be destroyed by God.
So don't let the mantra, the loud, false teachings of the environmentalists, which is just an arm of the religion of evolution, that's all it is.
Yep.
Don't follow the teachings of this false religion. Get in your Bible, study the words, figure out what it means, and you'll be better for it. We'll discuss this in more detail in future episodes. And then next week, we are going to talk about...
Next week, we're going to start talking about the pre-flood world, which is it gets very fun. It's definitely a very less talked about part of history. We just kind of blip over it real quick, just go through the genealogies and get straight to Noah. But we're going to talk a little bit more in depth about it, so we're looking forward to that. We hope you'll join us. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at thebibleininhistory@gmail.com, especially about this episode. It's a very difficult one, I think, for a lot of Christians to understand. We would love to get those questions, and we're already planning on doing some more about this later once we get some input from you all. So do email us about any questions you have about this, and we'll love to answer those in time. Thank you much. We'll see you next week.
If you enjoyed today's video, please like and subscribe to our channel.
You can also follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, and Google Podcasts.